You're still watching TVC Breakfast. Now back in Lagos, we always promise you trendy and accurate information. It's now time for Trending Now, and the beautiful Olamide Odekunle is standing by to let us know all the juicy gist. Good morning.
Good morning. Ria, I like that distinction. Trendy but also accurate.
Very
so you've got to keep that in mind. Thank you so much. Let's have a look at what everyone is talking about this morning. Good morning, Nigeria. I like to say that TVC has a finger on the pulse and our eyes on the streets. And here on the Trending Now segment, my team and I do our best on a daily basis to bring you all the trending stories that are shaping the world that you and I live in. We begin today still in River State, where minority leaders of the River State House of Assembly, Honorable Sylvanus Nwankwo and Honorable Peter Abi, representing Omuma and Degema constituencies respectively, have now made a U-turn on the impeachment plot against Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy, Professor Ngozi Maudu. Now, the two lawmakers who were among the central figures in the initial impeachment move have now called on their colleagues to withdraw the impeachment notices that were issued on Thursday, the 8th of January, 2026. And in a video that has since gone viral, Honorable Sylvanus Nwankwo and Honorable Peter Abi have appealed to members of the House to temper justice with mercy, urging restraint in the interest of peace and stability in River State. Let's have a look.
Conference to appeal to our fellow colleagues to temper justice with mercy and to see how we can resolve this matter apart from the impeachment proceeding.
We, as people, as members of the 10th Assembly, we want to plead with our colleagues to please reconsider. This, we have received calls from leaders, from people in River State.
Now, their appeal comes amidst heightened political tension in the state following the impeachment attempt, which has deepened, of course, the rift between the executive arm and the legislature. And this development marks a significant shift in the unfolding political crisis surrounding the leadership of River State. Let's have a look at social media. They look very sorry for what they did, I must say. ISIP says, this is what happens when public pressure meets political reality. When the people speak loudly enough, even the most calculated plots start to crack. River State is watching, Nigeria is watching, and history will remember who stood with democracy and who tried to trade the people's mandate for personal interest. Power belongs to the people, not backroom deals. Ooh. And Pato says, this is exactly what I expected His Excellency Fubara to do. Use your influence and infiltrate members of the House of Assembly. That's exactly what Wike would have done if he were in your shoes. And finally, Lord Foster had this to say. He says, the Wike structure is developing cracks. 2 members down. How many more to go? It's funny how fast principled lawmakers change their minds when the political weather changes. Rivers people, please grab your popcorn. Now, this matter doesn't seem to be dying down anytime soon, team. We're now seeing that at one point, the entirety of the River State Assembly stood firmly behind the impeachment of His Excellency Governor Siminalayi Fubara. However, now we're seeing some of them, 2 of them in this case, reneging on playing a part in the impeachment process. I'm curious as to what happened behind the scenes. Perhaps, if you will, Mr. Shomi, political analysis.
Well, for me, it's quite clear that River State House of Assembly has always been divided. Don't forget that we got to this stage with 4 legislators approving a budget which, in any case, had been thrown out by the Supreme Court. So the division is always there. The issue is that the Wike supporters are in the vast majority. About 26 of them, River State is supposed to have 31 legislature. Now, importantly, with these 2 legislators, it's the fact that they seem genuinely concerned about the situation. Yeah. They acknowledge the fact that the governor, probably heard, that the allegations made were facts. And in any case, what they're simply calling for is let the House of Assembly show mercy and then look for a political solution to the problem, while at the same time, the governor will commit himself, not to infract the Constitution any longer.
Well, for me, what is happening in Rivers State is actually just very sad. And all I've stood on from the beginning of this conversation is that the people of Rivers deserve better. The commotion has just been too much. It's either one thing or the other thing, you know, impeach Fubara, don't impeach Fubara. I'm just happy that right now, you know, earlier on we spoke about the Ijaw leaders just calling for peace. For me, I just want the way forward. What is the way forward for Port Harcourt? What is the way forward for Rivers? You know, is Fubara going to continue? You know, even I said it at this point, if it's Fubara, if it's not Fubara, all the Rivers people need is peace and tranquility. Projects are dying because of, you know, what is happening. There's a lot of commotion and people are not even able to, you know, function well in that state. I tell you, I speak to a lot of people there and it's just a really sad one. You know, the other day somebody was telling me, oh, Fubara has not been given the time to be a governor. Another person was saying, oh, Fubara has done nothing. He's just been fighting Wike since he got into, you know, power. So these are things that we really need to look at. But most importantly, we need that peace in River State. So whatever the problem is, they need to wrap it up very fast.
Absolutely, and from all indications, I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but it seems that these two men know something we don't. We'll follow this story very closely in the coming weeks to see if more House of Assembly members follow them. Thank you so much for your input, team. Now, what started as a cry for safety in Ekpoma, Edo State, has now spilled into the courtroom. And some students of Ambrose Ali University are amongst 52 people arraigned by the Edo State Police over last week's protest against rising kidnappings and killings in the community. Now, the demonstration was sparked by repeated abductions of residents from their homes, but it later allegedly turned violent with reports of shops looted and parts of the palace of the Honor Jail of Ekpoma vandalized. And police say that the arrest followed investigations into the violence. But several AAU students insist that they were picked up from their hostels around 3 a.m. while asleep and transported in a police van to Benin City. While the police maintain that these suspects were involved in the unrest, defense lawyers of these students are pushing back, describing the charges, including malicious damage and armed robbery, as exaggerated and unsupported by formal complaints. The case has, of course, reopened a sensitive national conversation. How does the state balance public anger over insecurity with the right to protest without fear of blanket punishment? And for many people in Ekpoma, the question is, are these arrests about justice or about control? Let's have a look at this video.
Look at the innocent students! We are students! Come back to airport! Come back to airport!
Very disturbing scenes you just saw as some of those students were remanded in a police station. Let's have a look at social media. I'll take 3 tweets. Engineer Yasser says they didn't remember they were students yesterday when they took laws into their hands, were destroying people's businesses and stealing away from their goods, destroying infrastructure and constituting nuisance. Are students not supposed to be the standard of examples if they want to protest? Were they not supposed to conduct themselves like educated people? That video yesterday was so disappointing. Let them face the law. Sheyi Global says, this is just evil. They arrest over 50 students in the middle of the night because they complained about kidnappings, then send them straight to prison. The real kidnappers are still outside walking free. The Edo government should be ashamed. Release those students right now. Sheyi Global also says, problem solved, guys. Kidnappers still doing their thing, but students who dare to complain, they get a midnight raid and prison. Perfect priorities as usual. Nigeria never disappoints. Now, team, you know, yesterday I took a story about the man who was kidnapped in Ekpoma, Edo State. And that is just one of many people who have been kidnapped and have been abducted. The students came out to protest. On their end, they say that they protested peacefully. But according to some police reports, which have not been founded as of yet, they vandalized property and they were picked up at their hostels around 3 a.m. while sleeping. We do have a freedom of expression. We have a right to protest. However, we must do so in a way that does not harm anyone or constitute a nuisance. Legally speaking, Mr. Shomi, what should be the next line or duty of care for these students who've been remanded?
No, we have to be very clear about one thing. You have 2 crimes here. The nature of the crimes are different. One, kidnapping or banditry or kidnapping, it has been classified as terrorism. So that's a different thing from criminality, such as looting shops, you know, and attacking businesses. You know, there are 2 different issues. The students have been accused of, those who are picked up were accused of looting shops and vandalizing properties and all that. They need to understand that, look, vandalizing property will not achieve anything. That's criminality. Everybody has the right to protest, and I fully support the students' right to protest, but not to the extent of damaging innocent people's properties or vandalizing their shops. So there has to be justice, also for those who are victims of those criminally minded students. I mean, it's not all the students that participated in looting shops. So that's quite clear to me. So while at the same time we're calling on the federal government to ensure that those who perpetrated the crimes of kidnapping are thoroughly fished out and dealt with, at the same time, justice needs to take its course because of the victims. So, but at the end of the day, the context also matters. We need to understand the context of that protest, whether there can be some form of mercy.
Well, a protest is not bad, but as long as it's a peaceful protest, and that's what I always stand for. I do not agree to vandalizing people's, properties, innocent people's properties, because you're protesting. Why you're protesting is very valid. We understand why you're doing this protest, which makes a lot of sense, but you could have done it in a more, I don't want to say sensible manner. I don't want to go extreme. You could have done it in a more, better manner rather than destroying people's properties. But even as that, they shouldn't be treated as criminals as well, because for the first reason why they were protesting, it's a very important reason. We've been talking about insecurity in Edo State. We've been talking about cultism, and I feel like Governor Monday Okpebholo has a whole lot to do in terms of the rising insecurity we are seeing, in Edo State. So these people came out to protest because of that, but they didn't do it rightly because of the way they went about it. And I feel like, it's just setting a precedent for other people that want to do stuff like this. You cannot want to protest for something bad and now do something bad in the process of protesting.
Absolutely. We've seen many sincere, genuine movements be hijacked by people who were not part of the movement. But on the other hand, public sentiment, some people online are arguing that we've never seen the Edo police react so fast to insecurity and kidnapping as they reacted to students who were protesting. Thank you so much for your input, team. Moving on, the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly has dismissed a false and misleading viral social media report claiming that it's considering a bill to criminalize sexual relationships with married men. Now, in a statement yesterday, the Assembly said the report was entirely fabricated and did not originate from the legislature of the state. The viral claim alleged that the bill was sponsored by the Deputy Governor, Senator Akon Eyakenyi, and would impose a 10-year jail term on women who dealt with married men, with the married men in question facing a 2 million naira fine. Lawmakers, however, have now said that no such bill exists and that the Deputy Governor didn't sponsor any legislation of that nature. The House has condemned what it described as a deliberate attempt to mislead the public, urging Nigerians to disregard the fake news and reaffirming its commitment to constitutional lawmaking. Now, this statement was signed by the chairman of the House Committee on Information, Honorable Jerry Anson Otu. Let's have a look at social media. So here on Trending Now, we don't just take trending stories, we also debunk fake trending stories. Andrew Okere says, a young lady that has good sources of living will not be looking for married men to sleep with. Use your good office as a governor to create an enabling environment for employment opportunities and small-scale businesses to flourish. Well, good news for you, Andrew. The bill was fake. Team, this is, we'll touch on this very, very quickly because we're running out of time. This is the damage of fake news, because this story spread like wildfire. How important it is, as journalists, as media personnel, to make sure that we're reporting accurate news, because this news could have been detrimental to the person of the Akwa Ibom State Governor. It looks like his priorities were misplaced.
It's kind of unfortunate that still have fake news being reported, and it's even more troubling, particularly when the target happens to be a deputy governor, because when you attribute something to a deputy governor, many people are likely going to take it seriously, and it has political implications for the governor and the ruling party in that state. So it's quite unfortunate, to allege that people will be criminalized, imprisoned, people fined 2 million. The goal is actually aimed at creating a public dissatisfaction, and I think it's something the Nigerian police force should investigate.
At the end of the day, that's why we're here, to do the right thing, to tell you the right and accurate information. I saw that spreading around, and of course I knew that it wasn't true, and that's why we also say it's not every blog or every station that you see news from and you think that is true. You need to go to the accurate stations. You need to come to TVC and be sure, what are they saying? Is it actually true? Because we give just the accurate information. But still talking about this story, if this bill was passed, I don't think it's a bad one. I think generally, you know, no single girl should be involving herself, you know, with a married man. You know, it's even in the Bible. Once a man is married, he's for another person.
But so, don't you think the men and the women should face the same?
Both the men and the women. So even as a man, you are married, stay with your wife. But most importantly, as a young girl, you know, you should be thinking about your own husband and not somebody's husband. It's very important that, you know, I always try to speak to a lot of young girls that, you know, try to be in your own relationship. You know, I never understand the fact that you're with somebody and you know he has somebody. I don't get it.
Once you are 18,
do you want to support this cause?
No, once you are 18, right to private life should be respected. So it's up to individuals who are already old to do what they like, but they must be ready to face the consequences.
I'm sure that every single woman and married men heaved a sigh of relief this morning, as this is fake news. Thank you so much for your input, team. Now, in a viral video in the world of social media, a BUA trailer driver has lamented after the company allegedly sacked him for protesting over unpaid December salaries. Now, this driver claimed that despite being dismissed, the company is still asking him to transport and offload merchandise in Benin using his personal funds. Let's watch this.
Wait I never see. I don't see her for boy. Life. Wait I see now. That's the one for boy. Since last year, me person see money. They don't pay me for salary for Christmas. I know sorry. I'm not receiving salary. Saying na SP will be. Saying na general they will give us salary. I don't know protest. Where say other driver protest. So where make them no come pay us again. And I thought they road now. Since that December, don't reach 1 month where they road. They where motor spoil for road. Only for me to come office today. Me I call say I will take rectify. I will take come up. See go solve the problem. They say they don't sack me.
This allegation has drawn public attention, coming shortly after the BUA chairman recently promised monetary rewards to Nigerian footballers for every goal that they scored. Well, BUA or BUA has yet to issue an official response to the claims as at the time of this report. Let's have a look at social media. Shay Global says 1 million for Super Eagles victory, but 0 for the guy where they drive trailer through bad roads every day. Chairman go they do big boy for stadium, while this man they beg transport fare after them sack him. Priority on 100. Saj says, why are we quick to jump into conclusions with only one side of the story? Why not hear from the other side to have a balanced view before taking sides? Nobody who reports first, they win case. And Smart Wooby says, it makes no sense. I wish the law courts in Nigeria is working. He did not take part in the protest, yet they fired him without paying his salary and still asking him to escort a truck. Honest workers are not even getting paid, and the CEO promised Super Eagles money. And now, Team One user rightly pointed out that, you know, it's important to get both sides of a story. There's a danger in telling only a single story, but I don't want to necessarily focus on BU. I want to focus on organizations. This is a trend within Nigeria. You know, we don't pay salaries, or we pay salaries late, and it does affect the quality of lives of individuals. Forgetting even this BUA case now, in general, it's a culture that we have, and it's detrimental on the middle class and low-income earners, don't you think, Mr. Showumi?
Well, I absolutely agree with you that it's quite not worker-friendly not to pay for services already rendered. I mean, if you have an agreement to pay somebody at the end of the month, you should be paying, you should be coming up, you know, with the funds. But a lot has happened in Nigeria to the extent that we've not been taking serious actions on it, going to industrial court and getting employers fined, you know, for paying the trade unions have not done enough on it. And we also know that not until the NLC or TUC will call workers out on strike, that is when we begin to take issues more seriously. But this very particular case in relation to BUA is incredible. You know, it's just beyond belief. We need to hear the other side of the story.
Because I know, you know, how BUA is a philanthropist, this is very surprising to me, and that's why I'm not going to say anything until I hear from them, until I hear from BUA Company, because this is a man that is very benevolent to, you know, his workers. I know people that work there and they tell me, you know, how he's just there when they have issues, he's making sure he takes care of their issue. I knew that when he comes out and say this, a lot of people will say things. I'm not going to say anything till I hear from the company, but, you know, sitting here, I know that BUA is a philanthropist, so it would be very surprising if that, you know, happened. And if that man is lying, you know, I'm sure that that's defamation, and he will definitely
absolutely
face the
and I think that oftentimes we blame the CEOs and the group chairmans of a company who don't even have any idea what's going on at the grassroots, because it's not him, it's his workers. But we'll see what happens if they respond.